In this video, I'm going to show you how to import your files from other systems and give you a jump start on your next design. First, let's bring in a fan I found that is in a step file format. For single parts like this, I'll simply go to the File menu, then Open. Here I can open files that would otherwise be found in my data panel or files from my computer. In this case, I've kept it on my desktop, and when I go to open it, it happens near instantly. This is because of the simple nature of this part, but also because the translations are done locally for step and a handful of other file types. The first thing I'll often do after importing parts like this is change the view orientation. To do this, I'll select a standard view from my view cube. In this case, I'll look at this from what is currently the back view. Then I'll right-click on the home icon and set the current view as the top. This will enable me to leverage my preferred constraint orbit to great effect. Next, I want to point your attention to this, the lack of history. By default, when you import files, they will be in a history-free mode. This can have its advantages. For instance, I can use this Find Features option to pull simple features from the body. Editable features at that. But more often than not, our users want to be in a history capturing mode. So let's go ahead and turn that on by right-clicking the top-level name and selecting Capture Design History. Our familiar design history bar can now be found at the bottom of the interface. Next, let's see how to bring in a SOLIDWORKS assembly and all its reference parts and subassemblies. In this case, I'll skip past the File Open option we used last time, and instead select Upload. This brings us to a slightly different dialog where we can now add multiple selections. Here I'll get 2 assembly files and 5 parts. When opening more than one assembly file, it'll ask for user input to determine which of the assemblies is the top level. This import process will take slightly longer and looks different for 2 reasons. The number of files and therefore complexity has increased, but also because this translation happens on the cloud. When the translation is done, it doesn't automatically open the file, so we'll need to find it in the data panel. Once opened, I'll turn this up to hyperspeed and start applying appearances. I'll use those on-brand fusion colors from my favorite section. To capture the proper mechanics of this system, I'll turn on my design history. Then and only then, I'll be able to add those as-built joints between these parts. I'll start by adding a rigid joint between a stationary part, like the base, and the top-level component. I do this instead of using a ground, which behaves differently than a fix for those of you coming from SOLIDWORKS. I'll share a link to the video explaining why, and I'll also share a great lesson on using those as-built joints for imported models. I hope this import lesson has given you a jump start as you bring your design work over to Fusion 360. Make sure to like or subscribe if this helped.